Hey guys, welcome. Tim O'Brien here. Appreciate you guys tuning in for another Facebook Live presentation. So the topic I want to talk about today is the strategy that I believe it all boils down to if you want to build a great personal brand. And this one strategy is going to determine whether you have a positive or a neutral personal brand. Or if you have a negative personal brand, if you continue to have a negative personal brand. Because remember, guys, I tell you all the time, everyone has a brand. It's either positive, negative, or neutral. So this one strategy is going to determine whether your brand is positive or remains neutral. Or if you have a negative one, if it remains negative. Now, before I jump in and talk about our topics today, just want to remind you, guys, I got a program coming out. Your time is now. I want to set you up so you have an amazing 2020. And it's a continuity program. We have a coaching program, and here's how it's going to unfold. Next week, I'm going to start advertising registration. It's just for the people in my community, the people that are tuning in for Facebook Live, people in my database. Early launch, some really awesome bonuses. And here's what we're going to do. I'm going to coach you once a week on a Zoom call. 1 hour a week you're going to dedicate to your career. 1 hour a week you're going to dedicate. I'm going to do a training call on a new strategy in and of itself that can help you go take your business to the next level, or your life for that matter. The following week, we're going to work on implementation. So before we go on to the next strategy, I want to make sure I'm doing my part to make sure we're implementing what we're learning. Then the third week, new strategy. Fourth week, implementation. It's going to go like that over the course of 2020. Everything's going to focus on building our brand, positioning ourselves as the person to see. So we're getting more prospects, we're closing more business, we're making more money. And it's going to impact not just your business, but your life as well. So just buckle up, be ready. We're going to have a lot of fun on it, a lot of awesome information. I'm going to start advertising it next week through emails, Facebook Lives, just for our peeps that are in our community, so we can get a head start on 2020 and make sure it's explosive. Okay? So today's topic, personal branding and building a personal brand, it really boils down to one thing, okay? And I'm going to cover three topics today. First is, I want to talk about that word build, right? What do I mean by build? Because I intentionally select that word. Number two is, how do I want you to think about building your brand, right? Like, what do I want you to think about when it comes to really intentionally building that great personal brand? And number three, I'm going to give you three strategy ideas that I think if you implement any one of the three, you're going to have massive impact on your personal brand, and pretty darn quickly. Remember, it's the most important asset we have, so we cannot neglect it. And it's the most important asset. Why? Exactly. It's the only asset which we will always have 100% control over. All right, so let's jump in. The word build. Why do I choose build? Because, guys, branding is all about building an identity. It's building it, right? I mean, you're going to have to construct it from selecting the right word or phrase that you want people to think of, and then going out and living into that brand so that people recognize that word or phrase. Now, the truth of the matter is, we don't have an army of people or millions of dollars or thousands or tens of thousands of dollars like maybe LeBron James does or Oprah Winfrey does, or famous movie stars do, to promote their individual brands, right? So I don't want to put that pressure on you to have to, install in people's minds that word or phrase you want people to think of the way we can, the way you maybe, the way they've worked hard to install that word, LeBron James, GOAT, or the King. Those words are the words people think of when they think of LeBron. It's all a product of marketing because of the millions of dollars and tens of thousands of people hours behind his brand. What we want to go for is positive, right? We want to make sure that everybody who talks about us and thinks about us thinks positive thoughts. Now, within our own local industry, maybe we, do build a hell of a reputation so that, that word or phrase does become synonymous with our brand. But for the most part, what we're looking for is for a lot of people to say a lot of positive things about us and our brand, right? Now, It's not going to happen just by selecting the word, right? Anybody can select a word. I just did a workshop the other day for a client, and we were around the table, 20 of us. And I said, do not try to come up with a word that people don't understand, like, or people don't talk that way, because branding is all about being relatable. And so I'll work with lawyers sometimes, and they'll say, my brand is advocate. And while it's true you are an advocate, people for the most part don't talk like that. They're not going to say, oh, he's a great advocate. For the most part, maybe occasionally. But what they will say are things like, oh, she's a pit bull, or he's a pit bull. He's like a dog on a bone. He's tenacious, right? So you want to use words that people will, that are part of the common vernacular. Now, here's what I told the group. You can have 20 people that'll choose the word trustworthy. Don't worry about the person next to you on your left and on your right choosing the same exact word as you. What you want to focus on is building an identity so you become the very definition of trustworthiness, because the likelihood is very few people are going to put in the effort that you're going to put in. And that's good news, guys, right? That's really, really good news. So don't worry about choosing a word that's unique to you that nobody else has. What I want you to focus on is choosing a word that's relatable, that people will commonly say in common vernacular. And I want you to work your fanny off to become the definition of that word. And that's going to require you to build. It's going to require you to construct. It's going to require you to put in effort. Now, I know I get super intense. I can hear right now my coach, right, saying to me, lighten up, Tim, smile a little bit. I just get so into it, right? I really do, because I realize the power of having a great personal brand. And I just love Facebook Live. I do, guys. I just love being able to communicate with you directly like this. It's exciting. It's fun, isn't it? And when you think about it, years ago, you had to pay millions and millions of dollars to, if you want to get on TV, or you had to have some kind of unique angle where, a news program took notice of you. And even in that case, maybe they took notice of you one time, but the likelihood of being able to communicate over and over and over to, thousands and thousands of people was very unlikely. And we're able to do this with each other just like this right now. And by the way, if you're tuning in for the first time, let me know. And let me know where you're tuning in from, particularly if you're tuning in from outside the country, because I love to hear from the folks that are outside the country. It's super exciting to think that our reach is that broad. Okay, so the first thing is got to focus on build. Next, what is that secret? What is that secret sauce, secret strategy? And the answer is brand equity. Brand equity, right? The word equity. What does equity mean, right? Equity means value. So think of it like your home, right? You have equity in your home. What's the value, the extra value above and beyond the mortgage? Or if you paid off the mortgage, what's the total market value of your home? So you want to focus on that word equity. And our whole idea about building a great personal brand is to build massive personal brand equity, massive personal brand value. So you see how it goes together with the word build, right? You can't just wake up one day and say, this is my brand and I have a huge reservoir of brand equity. You earn brand equity. You make deposits into your personal brand equity bank account. And it's really important that you have a big reservoir, because you'll make mistakes, guys. But the question is, can you bounce back from those mistakes? So here's what I want you to think about brand equity. Think of it like a home. If you buy a home, presumably it's worth the value you pay for it on the day you buy it, right? You have zero equity. Now there's three big things you can do, right? Three big things. First is you can redo the kitchen. That'll pop right there. Value goes up. You can redo the bathrooms. Bang, value goes up. And you can do some landscaping, right? And bang, the value goes up. So it enhances the curb appeal. You do those three things, and you take something that's kind of average, do those three things, and boom, all of a sudden you got a little bit of a masterpiece there. And equity shoots up. And usually it's worth a lot more than the value you put in, right? So you put in 100,000, but you built equity of $500,000 because those features are so important. Think of building personal brand equity the exact same way. There are some obvious big ticket items that you can clean up right away. Maybe it's your weight. Maybe it's the way you dress. Maybe it is maybe it's the car you drive, right? I'm not saying you have to go out and buy an expensive car, but how does your car reflect your brand? And is it clean? Does it all the time, inside and outside, right? How about the people you're associating with? Maybe you drink a little bit too much at cocktail parties and you need to scale back on that. Those are some big obvious items that you change those, and they are obvious and noticeable and have major impact on your target audience. But once you get done with the big ticket items, guys, this is where a lot of people drop off, because most of the brand equity is built in the little non-sexy things. So like in your home, it's the baseboard, the crown molding. Are your doors hollow or are they solid? Do you have a mantle over the fireplace? In and of themselves, each one of those, they're not going to add any measurable value, but collectively, they add great value. Think about staging homes, right? When you're going to sell your home, they have a stager come in, your agent does. And what they do is they put less furniture in the room because it makes the room look bigger. Maybe they do some touch-up painting. Maybe they do some other cosmetic things. Those little things collectively add up to a certain feel when people walk in, and bang, the house is worth more, or at least it's worth the price that they're advertising it for. You want to think about brand equity in exactly the same way. So you choose the word or phrase you want people to think of when they think of you. And you got to make a commitment to build that brand out. One of my clients once said to live into it. So this is my brand. I'm now going to live into it, which means I'm going to bring it to life and I'm going to become the very definition of it. You do that by making a commitment to build great personal brand equity, right? A lot of personal brand equity. Take care of those big ticket items. What are they? Do you need to change the way you're grooming yourself? Do you need to change your job? Do you need to change your attitude, right? Do you need to change the people that you're associated with? What are those bathroom, kitchen, curb appeal, big ticket items? And then after that, what are the around the edge items that in and of themselves, they're not going to add much value by themselves. But if you stick in the game and you just keep chipping away and chipping away and chipping away and chipping away without thinking about, is this working? Is this working? And all of a sudden you wake up and you've made this major deposit into your personal brand equity bank account. So I want to share with you now a couple of strategies, right? Like these are 3 ways to look at how should I go about building personal brand equity. And before I do, remember, your time is now, right? That's my online continuity coaching program. It's coming out. Guys, you want to enroll in it. I got some awesome bonuses for you in there as well, right? I got cold calling scripts, right? 5 cold calling scripts. I got my productivity funnel workbook, the goal setting workbook. You'll love it. I've got in there also how to jumpstart your social media profile, a video with a checklist. I've got how to create videos that attract attention, another video with a checklist. And I've got, that's 4. I've got a 5th one. What's the 5th one I got for you? The productivity funnel workbook. Oh, personal strategic planning workbook. Got that there for you as well. So you're going to enroll in Your Time Is Now. You're going to get those 5 bonuses. And everything I do, guys, money back guarantee. So here's the deal. You sign up for a month and it isn't what I told you it would be. Email me. Let me know. I'll return your money and you can keep the bonuses just for giving us a shot. Okay? Be on the lookout. So how do I want you to look at personal brand equity? I want you to look at it very simply. I want you to look at it from 3 strategy perspectives. Here's the first one. I was on the phone with I have a client of mine. They're in the commercial real estate banking space. So they find loans for developers. And not everybody in the organization is out trying to source business. Some of them are analysts internally and are supporting the guys that are out in the field marketing. So we were talking about each one of their individual brands. And so what I said to them, I want you to make a T-bar on a page, right? So you got a line across and a line down the middle. And on the left side, at the top, the heading, I wanted to say, do more of. And on the right side, I wanted to say, stop doing / do less of. And all we did was go through an exercise. And we identified the things that they need to do more of that are going to improve their personal brand credibility, that are going to be deposits in their personal brand equity bank account. And on the right side, the paradigm there, all I want you to do is, are there things you need to stop doing right now? I mean, as simple as, I got to stop being critical of other people. I've got to stop being, a naysayer. I've got to stop being late for meetings. Or the things that you need to do, less of. Maybe it's not major, but you need to, You need to scale it back a little bit, right? So maybe there's not like there's things to stop, but do less of it. It's not a major thing, but do less of it. You know, it takes a little bit of an edge off. I'll give you a good example, something to do more of. You know, when I work with clients, a lot of times, many of the people, most of the people are very excited, you know, to have me come in because, you know, I'm all about positive stuff, right? I mean, who doesn't want to work on positive stuff? But there's always a few people who are a little bit threatened. And the reason they're threatened, I know, is because they're afraid of change. And I never come in with an intention of making major changes or having somebody lose their job or anything like that. It's really all about trying to make people who want to get better, better, and giving them ideas and strategies. And one of my clients said to me, he said, Tim, let me tell you a little bit about the personality of an organization. And he did. And he said, here's what I'm going to recommend you do. Use the word suggest. And at first I was like a little bit like, you know, it wasn't really part of my vernacular. And I thought it was kind of a little bit like of a cop out. And I thought it was a little bit of a you know, treating people with kid gloves when we shouldn't. You know, it's all about, this is a business. Let's run it like a business. But the more I thought about it, the more I thought it was a great idea. And it was a small little thing, do more of. Use the word suggest. I suggest. Here's what I suggest. Here's what I'm suggesting. And it's funny. It had such a great impact. I incorporate it in everything I do with all my clients all the time. And I try to even do it with my wife, or I try to even do it with my children. Because it's a word that just, it softens even the most, you know, direct or what can be abrasive language. Or it softens a change idea that maybe it doesn't threaten people as much. Something small as that has had such an enormous impact on my ability to communicate. Okay, so you have your T-bar strategy. Second strategy, I want you to make a list of 100 things that you can do that will improve your personal brand credibility. Now remember, it's not going to be like if you choose the word trustworthy, that's got to relate directly to trustworthy. What I'm also saying to you is, you want people to say a lot of positive things about you. So what are 100 things you can do, implement, you know, do more of, do less of? What are 100 of those things that you can do that will have people saying more positive things about you? It's a pretty lofty, you know, goal. And what I want you to do is I want you to work on executing those. And when you're done with the 100, do 100 more. And when you're done with that 100, do 100 more. So you see where I'm going, right? Because you've also heard me say, if you're breathing, you're branding. So it never ends. It never stops until you intentionally want to abandon, you know, your own personal brand management. Here's a third strategy. Just did this with a client of mine, CEO of a company. And I want, you know, part of it is we've got to get some excellent results because the board wants him to step up his game. Great guy, great attitude, but wants him to step up his intensity and get more results. So one of the things I said to him was, we've got to work on your personal brand credibility. And what we're going to do is we're going to create what I call standards for success. I want you to identify 7 areas where you've got to get better. 7 areas where you think if you got better in these areas, people would say, wow, I'm noticing a difference. Now, what I said to him is, do not choose things that you're already good at that you want to reinforce. So I said, for example, do you lie? You know, and I always ask people that and they get like kind of nervous, like, you mean like white lies? I'm like, no, I mean, like, no, I don't lie. Okay. So if you don't lie, don't put down on there, I always tell the truth, because you're already doing it. I want you to identify 7 areas that you're going to focus on. And I want you to come up with a rule, not a concept, a rule. So say, for example, timeliness was your issue. I will always be on time. And if I am late, I will call ahead. A big one for people is conflict avoidance, right? Is, oh, I'm not conflict avoidant. It's not a real good rule. A better rule is, I am open, honest, and direct when communicating difficult information. See, it's stated a lot more affirmatively, and it's stated, it gives you a very clear sense of what you know you need to do. And for the people that you share your standards with, if they're observing, they'll know if you're following it or not, right? So when you have a rule like that, if I can see, excuse me, if I can see your behavior in the moment, I can easily see, oh, you know what? You're being passive aggressive there. You know, you need to step it up and be a lot more direct. So what I want you to do is I want you to come up with 7 rules that relate to your personal brand, that if you start doing these 7 things or stop doing these 7 things, people will take notice of your personal brand credibility. And here's the other thing. I want you to do this. I want you to cycle through each one once a week. So you're gonna take number one, and you're gonna cycle through it to work on just that one only for the entire week. That's it. And when you're done, the next. That'll allow you to cycle through those 7 4 times a year. So trust me, if you're committed and you're focused on improving 7 areas, and you're going to work on one area only for a week, by the end of the week, you're going to have a real good sense of what the behavior you need to exhibit, and you're going to start exhibiting it. People are going to start noticing it. Then you're going to move to the next one, and you're going to start stacking behavioral improvements. People are really going to start noticing your brand. You know, I had a client of mine, and he was part of a family business, and he was one of the children, and he was really screwing up bad. As a matter of fact, his dad said to him, "You're like a rock in the shoe of your boss." Think about that. His dad said that. And so I said to him, look, we need to work on changing people's perspective or perception of you. And what we did was we came up with standards for success. That was it. So for 30 days, I said to him, you will commit to this for 30 days like your life depends on it. And I'm telling you, at the end of 30 days, the guy revolutionized his brand in the company. People were like, literally, wow, right? Because it was things like this. I don't look at my phone when I'm in meetings. I'm on time. I come prepared. I don't leave early. All those little things that are prerogatives that you think you're entitled to because you're one of the children of the owner, right? Well, you can get away with it. They're not going to fire you. But the problem is people will think negatively of you, and people won't want you to be on their team. So when you change that behavior, all of a sudden, it's almost like your brand equity skyrockets because people don't expect it. So they get enthusiastic, excited. And all of a sudden, you're attracting people to you. You're attracting more opportunities. People want you to be on their team. So those are the strategies I want you to think about, right? Those 3 strategies. 1, the T-bar, right? Do more of, stop doing or do less of. Number 2, list of 100. Number 3, standards for success. You do one of those 3 strategies, and you're going to have massive impact on your personal brand credibility. Guys, do you want to make more money? I know the answer is yes, right? Do you want to close more deals? I know the answer is yes, because it's going to change your life, right? It's going to change your business and your life. Yes. It starts with having a great personal brand. My next door neighbor, Dick Mercer, said, nobody's as successful as an awful lot of people want you to be. You're not going to make a lot of money. You're not going to close a lot of business. You're not going to create a massive business that everybody's going to really gravitate towards if at its core, you don't have a great personal brand. Okay? So get to work. Be on the lookout for your time is now. We're going to have a most awesome time in 2020. I'm telling you, we're going to rock your business. Okay? And remember, guys, you are your best bet.